Welcome back. I'm Langdon Reid, half the Duo Grand staff.
And I'm Will Reid, the other half. And we're here with our dads, Harold and Don Reid, founding members of the Statler brothers, to talk about their book, Random Memories.
Yes, we are.
I'm Harold, I'm the other half.
Back to the book. I've got to tell y'all that one of my favorite chapters in the book was when you all talked about all of your heroes that you've met.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, Dad, that you even sit in there, you did an interview one time, and an interviewer asked you, what's been probably the best part of any success you've had? And you said it's given us the opportunity to meet our heroes.
Exactly.
And we're sitting around a bunch of pictures of a lot of those times that you all have shooken the hands of your heroes.
Exactly.
Are there any there that stand out?
All of them stand out. All of them come to mind. You know, we were so fortunate meeting and performing for 4 presidents, and for getting to know them and getting to know our childhood heroes. Let me tell you Roy Rogers. I'll give you one Roy Rogers story.
I love this one. Do it.
We were going to do a TV special, and we were never shy about saying who we wanted our guest list to be. So we said, yeah, let's get Roy Rogers. So we called, and sure enough, we get Roy Rogers booked. And we're working on music. And I'm at the office one day and get a call. And the secretary, Ann Peters, our secretary, come and said, there's a call, and you're going to want to take this. Roy Rogers is on the phone. He's calling. I was the only Statler there. Everybody else had gone home that evening. So I pick up the phone, and it's Roy. He said, hey, Don, I got a song I'd like to do on the show, and I want to sing it to you and see if it's all right. So he sings this old Sons of Pioneers song to me, which I already knew because they did it in a movie with Roy. We knew all of their songs. And I'm standing, he's standing singing over the phone and yodeling to me. And I'm sitting there thinking, Roy Rogers is on the phone asking me if it's all right. If he can just, Roy. Finished, I said, Roy, that's all right, but you can do anything you want to do. And he said, okay, good, I'll see you in Nashville in 2 weeks. And that was the end of the conversation, but only the beginning of the story, because then he was 2 weeks later in Nashville. We had a great time doing the special with him.
And the special part about that is we found those heroes. The bigger, and someone once said, the bigger they are, the nicer they are. We found that to be true, did we not? I mean, most everybody they were so gracious.
Still bigger than life.
Still bigger than life, but still calling and saying, is it okay to do this song, you know? Mm-hmm. Then we had other people, you know, and from time to time you never heard of, and you had a terrible time with them.
All right, Pop, I'm going to put you on the hot seat.
All right, I can take it.
I read there in the book something about you and Sergeant Preston.
Sergeant Preston.
Could you?
That would be Sergeant Preston of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. That takes everybody back a few years to across the Canadian border to an old radio show we used to listen to, and I'm sure you're talking about me going across the Canadian border, right?
Yeah, I never knew you were a smuggler. That's great.
Well, I didn't know it either, and I wasn't all that successful at it. Early days, we were the 4 of us, Statlers driving a car, eking out a living, doing the best we could, so we go into Canada one night. And we get there early before the Johnny Cash show comes across. They come across separate. And we go in one night, and we had these little 45 records. I doubt anybody's ever going to remember what a 45 record was. It was our latest single, and we had some pictures, and we were selling a little bit of merchandise. And quite honestly, the markup wasn't all that high, so we kept the merchandise as low as we could. And when I say low, I'm talking about down under the seats. So we go across the border, and they said, "Do you have anything to declare?" And we looked at each other, and we said, "No, we don't. Don't think so." Go on in. So we go in, and we get a bite to eat, and we go to the auditorium, and we are the opening act for the show. We go on and do our opening, and we sing, and we get through, and we announce that we have these things for sale. We got our new single, we have pictures, and people start coming down, and they start buying things, and we're really, I have to tell you, we was having a pretty good time, having a pretty good night. There's one gentleman come up through the crowd, and he said, "Could I see you a minute?" And I said, "I'll get to you in just a moment, sir." And I'm handing out records, and I'm autographing, and I'm just having me a great time. The second time he raised his hand, it had a badge in it. And he said, I'm with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and I need to see you now.
Enter Sergeant Preston.
And so Sergeant Preston shows up.
Yeah.
So he explains to us that we were supposed to declare merchandise at the border and pay a duty on them, and that we weren't supposed to be selling this, and it was illegal, and that we could finish the show, but he would be waiting, and when we got through, we would get with him and go down to see the judge. So it wasn't a question. It was a statement.
Yeah.
So when we got through with the show that night, we get in the car, we go down and we see the judge. And the judge says, well, you see what you've done wrong. You should have declared it. And he explained it to us. And he said, now, who owns the merchandise? Because if all of you own this merchandise, all of you are going to have to stay in jail tonight and get up in the morning and go to trial. So I said, no, I own the merchandise. He
Our
said,
hero.
Another hero. But I will say this, when I raised my hand, all of them took 2 steps back. I didn't see any more volunteers. So I said, okay, I own the merchandise. He said, then you'll have to stay in jail tonight. And so it upset them, but they went on back, got a bite to eat, and went to bed and watched TV.
We knew he was being well looked after.
Yeah, they knew I wasn't going to escape. So they take me down, looked like a movie set, took me downstairs, iron bed, no mattress. The guy took me down, he said, well, we'll see you in the morning. I said, I hope so. And I laid down on the iron bed. Best I remember, I did sleep a little while. I really didn't think there was any need to stay up because there wasn't a lot there, radio and television. Got up the next morning, and they were lining them up as they got out of the cell. They got the man, which is, 4 or 5 down the hall, and they already had a long line of wife beaters, whatever else there were. I wasn't the best looking one there, but I wasn't the worst looking one there either.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah.
They got me up, they walked us up the stairs. We go in the courtroom, and when I get there, there's Don and Phil and Lou and Marshall Grant of the Tennessee 2 sitting on the front row, judge sitting up there, and tells us that we had to go through a few of the cases we listened to. Finally brings mine up, and it turns out that somehow just about the right amount of profit we had made before Sergeant Preston took me in was about what it cost to get out of the courtroom and get back in the car and get out of town. All I can tell you about the story is that's sort of the end of my prison life.
Good.
It's not as dramatic as some, but from that time on, when they said duty, we felt it was our duty to pay the duty.
Yeah. You were glad to.
We did.
Learned our lesson.
Well, sorry, it's not funny, but it's a great story.
It's funny now. It wasn't funny when they took those 2 steps back and I went to jail for it.
It was hilarious. All right, speaking of hilarious, about that same time in 1974, the world was introduced to Lester Roadhog Moran and his Cadillac Cowboys. Whatever happened to those guys, by the way?
We don't even want to know what happened to them. I can tell you how they were born.
Okay.
We were doing an album called Country Music Then and Now, and we were going to do one side being old music and the other side being new music. But then we got to laughing and talking about how local country artists that we grew up knowing, some of those guys that had those local radio shows, and how bad some of it was. And we were on an airplane going to Europe when we came up with this idea, and so we wrote these characters, Lester, Roadhog, Moran, and Cadillac Cowboys. And we get over there, and we're laughing silly. We still got jet lag, and we're laughing silly about it. And we thought, let's get up tomorrow morning before we decide if this is any good or not. Well, maybe it's just not all that funny. But we got up, we read it again, what we'd written, and yeah, that was pretty funny, we thought. So we got back home, and we recorded and put it on the album, and it was an immediate hit. And they called for Lester to do an album of his own, and that's how he came about.
Hi, I'm Shannon McCombs. I love the Statler brothers. These guys have won more awards than any country music group in history. And I knew Harold and Don's book, The Statler Brothers' Random Memories, would be a classic to the people who love them. Over 300 pages of wonderful, heartfelt stories from their Hall of Fame career. Enjoy 79 pictures, some of them from their private collection, never released to the public until now. Don and Harold Reid tell how the group was formed when they were just teenagers, and how going on the road with Johnny Cash changed their lives. They tell the stories behind the songs that made them famous, and they dedicate a chapter to the time they spent with presidents, world leaders, movie stars, and many others. You can share in all these wonderful memories that are beautifully printed by sending a check or money order for $29.98 plus shipping and handling to the Nashville address on your screen. And you can also go to randommemories.tv to get your book today.